My name is Michael. I'm a technical consultant for Odoo for 6 years now. Today I will talk about load testing, how to stress your Odoo with Locust. Okay, so first I will introduce these topics. I will give you a context. Why do we stress Odoo? I will talk about specific tools called Locust. I will just show you with an example, and I will make a small conclusion. Okay, for the introduction, during my experience with Odoo, I often heard one question is how to configure my Odoo, how to correctly configure my Odoo, how many users can I accept with on my instance. So here, just have a small context. I just want to create a new instance. So the first thing I have to do is just to see all the options of Odoo. So the first option perhaps I will see here is the workers. I can activate the workers mode. Okay, perhaps somebody of you doesn't already know what it is, but I often see people doesn't really understand the workers. Sometimes people just believe that to activate it, you just have to note true or one or something like that. Normally, the theoretic value of the workers is 2 times plus 1 the number of core you have on your server. Okay, that's really a theoretic value. It's not right in any case, but it's a good start. Then when you activated the workers mode, you have some options that you can see just here, like for example the limit memory soft and hard. Okay, so I don't know if you know, but the soft memory is just the limit memory you have on a worker. So the soft is just when you pass this memory limits, the worker is killed just after the action. Okay, it's different with the hard. The hard, the limit here is the worker is directly killed. Okay, so that's the difference between here the 2 different options here. You have limit time CPU and real. The difference here is just you have the first one is just for the CPU time, and the rest is the CPU and all the other time, for example the networking and something like that. No, I think it's since the version 10 you have a new option, the limit time real cron. Okay, we normally with a cron you have some bigger crawl, so you need more time. So it's the reason why we have a special option for the cron here. Okay, you will also have, for example, a limit request. So that's normally the value you put there. You can define it theoretically, but you cannot be sure that your value is correct or not. Okay. So it's the reason why we will talking about the stress test. You also have PostgreSQL options. Here, for example, I put pgtune. I don't know if you know it. It's just a script where selecting and checking your hardware and making a configuration depending of your hardware. Okay, it's not enough. You have a lot of other configuration, but if you want to see that, I think my colleague Nicholas will give a talk about how to make a good configuration of PostgreSQL. Okay, you also can configure an Nginx or another proxy. That just for an example. Here the goal is not to explain you how to configure your server, but as you can see, it's not a piece of cake to configure correctly your server. And even you know all these options, you cannot be sure that with, for example, 20, 100 or a million users, it's okay or not. Okay. Obviously, here I give you just the option for one Odoo server, but you can make something more complex with a lot of different application Odoo software, and you can have your own PostgreSQL server also. So the first thing you do after your configuration, and something really important, is to monitor your server, what you configure just before. So, for example, we use Munin. Okay, so I will just show you. We have all our server are some probe that you can see here, and there you have some statistics. This statistic you can normally Munin already have some probe that you can use, but if you want, you can also develop your own Munin apps, and you can say, for example, I want to see if the cron in Odoo is correct or not, so you can develop by yourself to monitor correctly your Odoo. Sorry? Okay. So here, for example, it's the networking. You can check the network and something like that. Okay, so so that's what's the first thing, is just to monitor. But the problem of the monitoring, it's not enough, because when you configure your production server and you monitor, if you see a problem during your monitor, it's too late, in fact. You can understand the reason why you have a problem when you, for example, when you see that 100 user is connected, you see a peak somewhere in your graph, but it's too late. So here, what we expect is to find a solution to know when I have, for example, 50 simultaneous user, what happened? Okay, so to do that, what we have the XMLRPC API. So the first thing we can do, and the first thing we do, in fact, in our department internally, is just to create some XMLRPC scripts, just checking randomly some action that a user can do in Odoo. Okay, but the problem is not really user-friendly for us, and we cannot really make a good report on it. So here is the problem here is really how to prevent load problems and make perhaps your configuration great again. So what one of my colleagues developed is a Locust tool. So Locust, what it is just an interface. It's more than that, but here Locust gave us an interface where you can see with XMLRPC call directly some value and some important figures. For example, here, as you can see, you have a type of request you make, but you have the name of the methods, the number of requests, the fails you have on this request. So it can be very important, because here what we want to see is when do you see the first fails appear? How many users need my system to see the first fails here? For example, you have a median time, an average time, a minimum time, a maximum time, a content size, and the request per second. Okay, and here you have an average request per second. Here you have. So that's just a screenshot of the Locust website. So you can find it here in locust.io. And the connector to this, to connect Locust with Odoo, you can here find that on the GitHub, like the link you have just there. Okay, but how really to create your test? So the first thing is to install your Locust. Okay, so it's really easy. You just pip install Locust IO. Then you can write all the XMLRPC test you want. So perhaps this morning you followed the speech, the talk of Nicola, who are talking how to create your XMLRPC. So here, in fact, it's really simple. You can, as you do directly on the code, you can directly call some methods in the code. So for example, here you want to create an SO, read product, read partners. Okay? So here it's really easy. You just create with the same methods you can call directly in the code. Like your create, your search is really the same that you have in our API. Okay. So here is just to explain here what it is, the task here. Okay. So I just copy-paste from the Locust website here, documentation. Here, for example, you have the task 1, you have the decorator have the argument 3, and here the task 2, 6. It's just saying that the task 2 will be executed twice as much as the task 1. Okay, so that was for to explain the tasks. After that, you just have to call on a Locust class here with some options. So you can directly define it on a database, on a special host, okay? And you also have, this is some Locust options. So the max weight, so I think it's really understandable just with the name. And so you can directly make your test, okay? And finally, when you define all these two things, so the XMLRPC file and your OdooLocust class here, like that, your connection, you can just type locust -f with your file, your Python file, and the class here that you can find here, okay? And when you do that, I will show you what happened. So, whoops. So here it's my Odoo server. I just load Locust like that. Okay. So Locust give me an interface. Okay. Here you can directly say the number of user you want to simulate. And here you can say the user spawns per second. So that can be useful when you really want to see with a graph correctly where your system is broken, how many users need to broken your system. Okay, so for example, here I take this example. I start, perhaps I have just to reload here. So normally, as you can see here, you will see all the user just connecting. So the first thing we do here is to log with all the users. Then in my script, I just create a read, a search, and a copy. And I put a mistake in my copy. Okay, it's really easy. I will just show you. So in my copy, I put just here an infinite loop, okay, to be sure that I have a problem. And in fact, as you can see here, the copy here, you see that I have some fails. So with the menu here, you can directly see that the problem is a JSON RPC exception. And if I go back here, you can see directly, if I take there, that you have a CPU time limit exceeded. Okay, it's normal because I'm in an infinite loop. So here the operation take more than here I put just 10 seconds, so it's the reason why I have a problem here. Okay. So that's the first thing. So here you have an example directly. Here is one of my colleagues who are just creating the connector between the OpenERP client lib and Locust. Okay, you can find here an example. So it's the example I show you. Yep. So here is the library, XMLRPC library we use to do that. Okay, so here it's just to create easier an XMLRPC call. Oops. And the last thing I want to show you. Okay, so just sometimes you perhaps asking you, what do you need to test? What you can test, what you can do is just to, for example, in one of projects we do, I just put in a new module. I just record all the call KW arguments. In fact, all the methods in Odoo just passing here. Okay, so here I just printing the methods here and the arguments here, and I can see here I can just have a look of what doing my user. So when I do that, I record everything, all the methods I do. Okay, so that's just an example to know how it's possible to see just with clicking. So a functional after me just making the process of a standard user, and I just bring back all the records and I see which methods equal, and I just put that on a XMLRPC test and it was over. So whoops, I come back here. So just for the conclusion, what is working here and what doesn't work. Load testing is really important for, and the possibility of the load testing is just to know if your server can be able to, with a certain load. Okay, the time give you a scale, but cannot give you a perfect time, because the time depending also of the database and the number of record you have. So it can change in production, obviously. So that's something really important. And for the rest, I think it's not really important to do load testing in every database and in every instance. Obviously, load testing is really needful for all the big projects you have with a lot of load. And I think it's done. So have you questions about that?